Picture this. It is a Tuesday morning. You walk into your local bank branch. The floors are polished marble, the air is cool and smells faintly of expensive sanitizer. There is a sense of calm, of stability, of permanence. You walk up to the teller, hand over a stack of cash money you traded your time, your sweat, and your life energy to earn, and you deposit it. You watch the numbers on the screen go up. You walk out feeling responsible. You feel safe. You believe that money is sitting there, in a vault, waiting for you, perhaps even growing a little bit thanks to interest. But here is the brutal truth that the marble floors and the friendly commercials are designed to hide. You have just walked into a trap. That moment of deposit was not an act of saving, it was an act of surrender. From the second that money left your hand, it ceased to be yours. It entered a machine designed to do one thing: transfer wealth from the many who work for it to the few who print it. To understand how we got here, we have to peel back the layers of comfortable lies we have been told since grade school. We have to go back in time, not to the founding of the bank, but to a specific day that changed everything. August 15th, 1971. This is the prologue to your empty savings account. On that day, President Richard Nixon appeared on television and temporarily suspended the convertibility of the US dollar into gold. That temporary measure never ended. In that instant, money stopped being a store of value backed by a tangible asset. It became fiat, currency backed by nothing but government decree and faith. Why does this history lesson matter to your bank account today? Because it unlocked the door to the first and most dangerous secret, the silent theft known as inflation. Most people think inflation is just prices going up. You go to the grocery store and milk costs more than it did last year. You blame the supply chain, or the greedy corporations, or the gas prices. But that is a distraction. Inflation is not prices going up. It is the value of your money going down. When you leave your $1,000 in a savings account, the bank might vaguely promise you an interest rate. Let us be generous and say they give you 0.5% a year. They present this as a gift. Look, they say, we are paying you to keep your money here. But look at the reality. If the real rate of inflation is hovering around 3%, 4%, or even higher, and keep in mind, the official government numbers often exclude the things you actually need, like housing and food, then the math is terrifying. You earn $5 in interest, but your money loses $40 in purchasing power. You did not gain profit. You subsidized the bank. The savings account is not a vault. It is a leaking bucket. Every day your money sits there, it bleeds value. The bank knows this. They rely on it. They rely on the fact that you will look at the number of $1,000 rather than the value of those dollars, what they can buy. This is the money illusion, and it is the foundation of modern poverty. But if your money is not sitting in the vault, where is it? This brings us to the mechanism of the machine, something so audacious that if an ordinary person did it, they would be thrown in prison for fraud. It is called fractional reserve banking. When you deposit that $1,000, the bank does not put it in a box with your name on it. By law, they are only required to keep a tiny fraction of it in reserve, historically often around 10%, and in some recent regulations, even less. That means they take $900 of your money and lend it to someone else. Now, imagine the person who borrows that $900, takes it and deposits it into their bank. That bank now keeps 10% $90 and lends out the remaining $810. Stop and think about what just happened. You have $1,000 in your account. The second person has $900 in their account. The third person has $810. From your original $1,000, the banking system has suddenly created $2,710 purely out of thin air. They did not print it, they typed it into a computer. They created money from debt. This is the magic trick. Banks are not just warehouses for money, they are manufacturers of money. And here is the kicker. They charge interest on every single dollar they create. They are collecting profit on money that did not exist until they decided to lend it. This drives the modern economy, but it also creates a vicious cycle. Since money is created by issuing debt, There is always more debt in the world than there is money to pay for it. It is a game of musical chairs where someone is guaranteed to lose, and the system ensures that the loser is usually you. While they play God with the money supply, they engage in another game to keep you tethered to the system, the trap of convenience, better known as the credit card. Banks aggressively market credit cards as a lifestyle essential. They sell you on points, cash back, and the freedom to buy what you want when you want it. But the credit card is the most sophisticated weapon in their arsenal. It disconnects the pain of paying from the pleasure of buying. When you hand over cash, you feel the loss. When you swipe a card, you feel nothing. The bank's goal is not for you to pay off your balance every month. In the industry, people who pay off their full balance are derisively called deadbeats because the bank makes no money off them. The ideal customer is the one who makes the minimum payment. If you have a $5,000 balance at 20% interest and you only make the minimum payments, you will be paying off that debt for decades, and you will end up paying double or triple the original amount. That extra money? That is pure profit transfer from your labor to their ledger. They have designed a system where being poor is expensive. This leads to a disturbing realization about how the system treats different classes of people. There is a velvet rope in the banking world. On one side, there is the ordinary worker. On the other, the wealthy elite. The rules for these two groups are not just different, they are opposite. If you are a low-income earner, struggling to make ends meet, and you walk into a bank asking for a loan to start a small business or fix your car, you are viewed as a risk. If you get approved at all, you will be slapped with the highest interest rates. You are punished for your need. But if a billionaire walks in, someone like Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk, the bank rolls out the red carpet. When Zuckerberg bought his home, he did not pay cash, even though he could have bought the entire neighborhood. He took out a mortgage. Why? Because the bank offered him an interest rate of around 1%. That is essentially free money. In fact, it was below the inflation rate, which means the bank was effectively paying him to borrow their money. Why does the bank do this? Because they know the wealthy play a different game. This game is one of the most closely guarded secrets of the rich, the buy, borrow, die strategy. This is how the true elite avoid taxes and accumulate generational wealth, and it is a service banks are all too happy to facilitate. Let us say you are a billionaire with $100 million in Amazon or Apple stock. You want to buy a $10 million yacht. The logical thing seems to be to sell $10 million worth of stock. But if you do that, you trigger a taxable event. The government will want 20% or more in capital gains tax. That is $2 million gone. So the wealthy do not sell. Instead, they go to the bank. They pledge their stock portfolio as collateral for a loan. The bank lends them the $10 million cash at a pitifully low interest rate. Now, the billionaire buys the yacht. Since debt is not income, they pay zero taxes on that $10 million. They get the cash, they keep the stock, which continues to grow in value, usually faster than the interest rate on the loan, and they avoid the tax man. When they die, their estate is stepped up in basis, and the cycle can often be reset. The bank loves this. It is a secure loan backed by high-quality assets. The billionaire loves this. They live tax-free. Who loses? The ordinary person who sells their labor for a paycheck has taxes deducted before they even see the money and then puts the remainder into a savings account that loses value to inflation. The bank facilitates a system where the poor finance the reckless speculation of the economy, while the rich use the bank as a tool for tax avoidance. But it gets darker. The banking system does not just favor the rich individually, it favors the massive corporations that hide trillions offshore. You have heard of the Cayman Islands, Switzerland, Bermuda. These are not just vacation spots, they are black holes for global capital. Trillions of dollars estimates say over 10% of global GDP sit in these tax havens. Banks set up complex shell companies, mailboxes that do no business but hold intellectual property rights, allowing giants like Google or Apple to shift profits away from where they were earned to places with zero tax. This means the roads you drive on, the schools your children attend, the infrastructure of society is funded disproportionately by you, the middle class, because the entities with the most money have purchased a ticket out of the system. And the banks? They are the travel agents booking the trip. You might wonder, if this is so obvious, why does not everyone know it? Why are not we taught this in school? That is the 13th secret, perhaps the most insidious one. The omission of education is intentional. Think back to your years in school. You learned about the Pythagorean theorem, you learned about the mitochondria, you memorized dates of battles fought centuries ago. But did anyone ever sit you down and explain how a credit score works? Did anyone explain the difference between an asset and a liability? Did anyone teach you how to read a loan amortization schedule? No. This is not an accident. The banking system relies on your ignorance. A financially literate population is a nightmare for a bank. If everyone understood that credit card interest is financial suicide, profits would plummet. If everyone understood that keeping cash in a savings account is a losing bet, bank liquidity would dry up. They need you to be just smart enough to sign the paperwork and push the buttons, but not smart enough to question the math. They bombard you with advertisements about cashback rewards and points, dazzling you with pennies while they rake in dollars. They rely on the fact that finance feels complicated, boring, and scary, so you will just trust them to handle it. And trust. Trust is the final, most terrifying secret of all. We like to think of banks as fortresses. We imagine vaults of steel and concrete, piles of gold bars, unshakable stability. But the reality is that the modern banking system is a house of cards built on a foundation of pure psychology. It operates on confidence and nothing else. Because of fractional reserve banking, because they have lent out 90% or more of the money you gave them, the bank does not have your money. If you go to the ATM today, you can get your cash. If 10 people go, they can get their cash. But if everyone decides to go on the same day, a phenomenon known as a bank run, the illusion shatters instantly. The doors lock. The ATMs go dark. The screens flash errors. We saw this in 2008. We saw it with Silicon Valley Bank. When the panic starts, the math reveals itself. The money simply is not there. This fragility is why the system is so terrified of you losing faith. It is why they have deposit insurance, why they have bailouts. They are not protecting your money, they are protecting the illusion. They need you to believe the lie so the game can continue. So, where does this leave you? You are standing in the lobby of the bank, looking at the teller, holding your deposit. You now know the truth. You know that your savings account is an inflation trap. You know that your deposits are being used to fuel a lending machine that creates money out of thin air. You know that the wealthy are playing by a different rulebook, using debt to get richer while you use debt to survive. You know that the fees, the low rates, the products are all designed to keep you on the hamster wheel, running forever but never moving forward. It is enough to make you angry. In fact, you should be angry. But anger alone is not a strategy. The banks do not care if you are angry, as long as you remain dependent. The only way to win a rigged game is to stop playing by the rules they set for you and start playing by the rules they set for themselves. This means shifting your mindset from a saver to an investor. It means understanding that in a fiat currency system, cash is trash and real assets, real estate, businesses, stocks, commodities, are the only life rafts. It means using debt not to buy consumer goods that lose value, but to acquire assets that gain value. It means educating yourself because the school system will not do it for you. And it starts right now with a single decision. If you are ready to stop being a pawn in their game, if you are ready to learn the truths they have tried to bury, then join this movement. Click that subscribe button right now. Do not just watch act. By subscribing, you are not just following a channel. You are joining a community of people who are waking up from the financial matrix. We dive deeper into these secrets every week, giving you the tools to reclaim your financial freedom. The bank is not your friend. It is a business. It is a tool. And like any sharp tool, if you hold it by the handle, you can build a house. If you hold it by the blade, you will bleed. For your entire life, you have been holding it by the blade. The marble floors are still shiny, the air is still cool, the teller is still smiling, but as you turn around and walk out the doors, the world looks different. The matrix has cracked. You see the strings. you see the mechanism. The fear is gone, replaced by something much more dangerous to the system: clarity. You finally understand the secrets they tried so hard to keep. And now that you are awake, the real question is not what the bank will do with your money, but what you are going to do with it.